Well, mutatis mutandis. So we correct it during the screening and the report subsequently. Thank you. Page 699. Page 700. Page 701. Page 702. Page 703. Page 704. Page 705. Page 706. Page 707. Page 708. Page 709. Page 710. Page 711. Page 712. Page 713. Page 714. Page 715. Distinguished Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Issa Jibrin, representing the very good people of Kogi East. I rise to move that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th September 2020 be adopted. I so move, sir.
Distinguished Senator Francis Adenigba Fadamsi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Francis Adenigba Fadamsi from Muslim. I like to support Senator Issa Jibrin's that the motion, the vote and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th September 2020 be adopted, please. I so support.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th September 2020 be approved, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 29th September 2020 is hereby approved. Announcement to all committee chairmen. The joint executive legislative retreat is holding on Monday 5th to Tuesday 6th October 2020 at the Banquet Hall, Presidential Villa, Abuja by 10 a.m. Letters of invitation have already been sent to your various offices, and kindly note that buses will depart for the venue by 9 a.m. prompt on each day. The buses will be parked by the entrance of the Senate building. Signed, Senator Abdullah, Senate Leader. Announcement. This is a letter from distinguished Senator Aliu Magataka Dawamako. Dear President, appreciation for your prayers over the demise of my daughter. My distinguished colleagues, I write to convey my appreciation to Mr. President, Senator Ahmad Ibrahim Lawan, CON, the Deputy President of the Senate, Senate Principal Officers, all my distinguished colleagues, Senate Management, and Senate Press Corps for your prayers and show of love towards me and my family during the demise of my beloved daughter Sadia Magatakada Wamoko on Thursday, 10 September 2020. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, your massive presence was a great relief to me and my entire family. Your actions have further encouraged me to maintain true friendship with all my distinguished colleagues at all times. Your show of solidarity in my time of grief will remain indelible in my memory and will stretch beyond the 9th Senate. On behalf of my family, I thank you for your support. May Allah bless you. Signed, Senator Wamako Aliyu Magatakada. Petitions. Petition, very distinguished Senator Uche Ukwenefe.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Lilian Ukwenefe. Mr. President, I come from Anambra State. Mr. President, I have 3 petitions. Number 1 is petition from Women's Organization for Gender Issues against the Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Defense, Headquarters, Abuja, on victimization of one Dr. Mrs. Nkenke Ojemekari, a consultant ophthalmologist at the ministry. Mr. President, in their petition, the organization stated that by 24th of June 2020, Dr. Ojeme had been deployed by the Permanent Secretary to understudy and take over from the outgoing Director of Health Department, sequel to the latter's recent promotion and deployment as Permanent Secretary. But by 27 August 2020, Dr. Ojeme's appointment was reversed based on petitions that her elevation was on grounds of adulterous relationship with the Permanent Secretary. Mr. President, the Women Organization for Gender Issues want the Senate to urge the Ministry of Defense to uphold the promotion of Dr. Mrs. Ojeme, which was purely on professional qualification and competence and not based on bias, favoritism, or cronyism. This will also go a long way in promoting professionalism as well as jettisoning this notion that a woman's success is always tied to relationship with a man, which women are determined to fight at all levels in Nigeria. Number 2 petition, Mr. President, is petition from Forum of Subcontractors Abuja on Pengassin's refusal to pay members for completed works on Pengassin housing scheme at Galadiwa, Abuja. Mr. President, in their petition, members of the Forum of Subcontractors are asking the Senate to use their good offices to urge the leadership of Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria to pay their outstanding balance for construction of Pengassin Housing Scheme Site 3 at Galadima after taking over the building since 2014. Mr. President, the last one is the petition from Mr. Kenneth Osakwe on wrongful termination of his appointment and non-payment of his entitlements by Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. In his petition, Mr. Osakwe stated that he was working in foreign operations of CBN until his appointment was...
Distinguished. Please, I thought you would just take a minute for each petition to mention the synopsis, not to read the entire petition. No, but you have taken too much time, so round it up, please.
Mr. President, with your kind permission, sir, may I lay the 3 petitions on the table? Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, let me ask if there is any of the petitioners who is seeking any judicial remedy. None. Okay, you may lay the petition, please. petitions are referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions to report back within 2 weeks. Any more petitions? Any more petitions, please? Is that petition? Petition, Senator Eko.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Akone Yarin, Akwa Ibom South Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I have a petition here from one of my constituents, Mr. Samuel Duncan, who is an academic staff of Maritime Academy of Nigeria, Oron. The petition is addressed to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, titled Wrongful Termination of My Appointment. Mr. President, the petitioner is an academic staff. He's alleging that he was dismissed from his work without any verifiable reason. The petitioner further maintains that he was never queried on any act of misconduct, neither was he given any opportunity to defend himself. With your kind permission, Mr. President, I wish to lay this petition for proper investigation. Thank you.
Is the petitioner seeking any judicial remedy? You may lay the petition, please. Thank you. The petition is referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and Public Petitions to report back within 2 weeks. Any more petitions? Any more petitions? No petitions? Point of order, Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, Senator Boacha Emmanuel, I represent Taraba South. I rise on the strength of the provisions of Order 43 of our standing rule, Mr. President, that by the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. Mr. President, the matter in question, even as defined by our rule, is not a controversial matter, but a commendation for the commencement of work of an age-long request from my senatorial district. This commendation is coming from all the political parties in southern Taraba about the construction of the EB Bridge. Mr. President, as I speak, equipment have been moved to site. It appears like a dream come true.
The commendation is to who?
Mr. President, the commendation is Mr. President, the
Deputy Minority Leader, you are very much protected. Go ahead, please.
Your mic.
Mr. President, like I said, this commendation is from my party, from the APC, from all other political parties in my senatorial district. And it is an expression of appreciation. An expression of appreciation of the commencement of work of this bridge. Like I said, the joy cut across political bounds, and all religious leaders are happy with this work because contractors have been mobilized to site And like I said, it's like a dream come true. So we are very happy and we want to extend this. I'm doing this on behalf of my constituents who have asked that I lay this letter, Mr. President, for onward transmission to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, that he will understand the state of our joy over this particular project. May I crave your indulgence, Mr. President, to lay this letter?
Please go ahead. Because we have come under Order 43, because we have come under Order 43, this matter is not open to discussion. However, I will make some few comments. First, I want to thank you and your entire senatorial district for being very statesmanly. When things are not good for people, they should say so. But when things are good, they should also say so and commend government. You are a true Nigerian, very patriotic Nigerian. And for the people of Taraba South, this is to show how the present administration works. It doesn't matter whether you voted for the party in government or not. Government owes responsibility to each and every part of this country, regardless of what their contributions were to creating the administration. So thank you very much, very distinguished, patriotic Senator Emmanuel Boacha. And let me assure you that this letter from Taraba South will reach Mr. President. And I even expect that Mr. President will write a reply to thank and commend the people of Taraba South through you. Thank you very much. Senator Adigian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Aidi Gyang, representing Plateau North. Mr. President, I'm rising under Order 43, which has just been read by the last speaker. And I will ask that you permit me to, if you take legislative note of it, that you permit me to raise this matter that has to do with the assassination of a traditional ruler in my constituency. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, go ahead.
Distinguished colleagues, it is indeed with a heavy heart that I am notifying the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria of acts of serial killings and targeted assassination of traditional rulers in Plateau State. My constituency, Plateau North, in particular. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the latest is the killing of the Gomrei of Foron, that is the district head of Foron, His Royal Highness Da Bulus Chuangjang, who was assassinated at his palace last week, and the burial is due for this Friday. Mr. President, this trend is quite disturbing because not less than 10 other traditional rulers have unfortunately suffered death through the same circumstances. In Gashi's district of Barikin Ladi, the Gwamkachin and Gwamruku, and of course the district head, have been assassinated. In Hepan district of Biladi, Gwamtapo has been assassinated. In Fan district of Biladi, Gwaminding Rankasa has been assassinated. In Foron district of Barikin Ladi, Gwamrung and Gwamkapen, and of course including the latest case, the acting Gwamre of Foron, have all been assassinated. Mr. President, it is already known that the first-class chief in Bokos local government was also assassinated. These very disturbing developments have called for the need for security to be tightened around our traditional rulers to ensure that the increasing threat to their safety is averted. I would use this opportunity, Mr. President, to call on the Inspector General of Police to direct the Commissioner of Police in Plateau State to provide security to our traditional rulers in their palaces so that they will be secured and the increasing threats to their safety be averted. Mr. President, it's also unfortunate that just this last week, 5 of our youths who were resting and having an evening out were brutally assassinated in K-Vom of Wang district in Jos South local government. All of these developments are providing increasing insecurity in my constituency, and I thought it's very necessary, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, to alert and bring this to the notice of the Senate that Plateau State, and particularly my constituency, that has witnessed return of peace, is suddenly again being visited with these very ugly attacks. And of course,
the song we should round up.
Mr. President, it's common knowledge that the attackers are suspected to be killer herdsmen. And this is very disturbing in a nation that we need to be our brothers' keepers, a nation that we need to build, have a common destiny, but Plateau State needs urgent attention security-wise. Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues.
Thank you very much, distinguished. Because I have come under Order 43, this is not open to debate, but let me, on behalf of all of us, the Senate, send our condolences to the government and people of Plateau State, particularly your senatorial district, where most of these incidents took place. And we pray that the security agencies, like you suggested, should provide sufficient security around, of course, the traditional rulers, but provide security for everybody. The situation requires that we continue to work together with the executive arm of government until we find enduring solutions to the security challenges that this country faces. Thank you very much. May the soul rest in peace. Yes, Senator Issa Jibrin.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise under Order 43 of the Senate Standing Order. And with your permission, I wish to proceed to read the order.
Under 43. Okay.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator may make a personal explanation, although there be no question before the Senate. But no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought.
What is the issue?
Thank you, Mr. President. While we were on recess, the paramount ruler of my kingdom, the Igala kingdom, passed on. And I feel that I should bring this to the knowledge of the Senate.
Go ahead.
The Senate knows that the Ata Igala, who is the traditional head of the Igala kingdom, and also the chairman of Kogi State Council of Traditional Rulers, with his traditional stool domiciled at the ancient town of Ida, passed on. Further knows that the 27th Ata Igala, His Royal Majesty, Dr. Michael Idako Ameobonitu, was born at Ida in 1948 to the family of His Royal Majesty, late Ameoboni, who was the 25th Ata Igala. Aware that His Royal Majesty, Dr. Michael Ameobonitu, attended the St. Boniface Primary School, Ida, and completed his primary education in 1960, after which he gained admission into St. Augustine College, Kaba, in 1961 and graduated in 1967. Further aware that His Royal Majesty took his educational pursuit further by attending Kaduna Polytechnic from 1976 to 1980, where he bagged a certificate in estate management. Informed that in terms of working experience, His Royal Majesty joined the Nigerian Air Force in 1968 and was discharged in 1974 at his request, after which he worked briefly as a land inspection officer at the Ministry of Lands in the old Kwara State from 1974 to 1975 before proceeding on further studies at Kaduna Polytechnic in 1976. Further informed that after his graduation from Kaduna Polytechnic in 1980, His Royal Majesty later took on appointment with the Federal Capital Development Authority in 1981, where he retired as a deputy director in 2006. Recall that the governor of Kogi State appointed His Royal Majesty as the 27th Ata Igala on the 6th of March 2013, in line with the laid out procedure under the Igala Native Law and Custom, following the demise of the 26th Ata Igala, Alhaji Dr. Aliyu Obaji. Regrets that after 7 years on the throne, His Royal Majesty joined his ancestors on the 27th day of August 2020, following a brief illness. Convinced that the short-lived reign of His Royal Majesty was quite eventful and impactful, as the Igala Kingdom and Kogi State witnessed a new era of peacekeeping and cultural development. Resolves to urge the Senate to observe a minute silence for the deceased royal father and urge the Senate to condole with the Igala Kingdom and the governor of Kogi State over the demise of His Royal Highness. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Because you have come under Order 43, there is no debate about this, and the only request we will grant here is the minute silence. Other prayers may not be granted because they are supposed to be debated if they were to come under a motion. So 1 minute silence, please. May the soul of late Ata Igala rest in perfect peace. Amen. Senator Tolu Odebi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Tolu Odebi, representing Ogun West. Mr. President, permit me to come under Order 42, matter of urgent public importance. If you permit, I may read.
Yes, go ahead already.
The matter of discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting. The President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied with the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of the session, senators, the matter shall stand still the next legislative day. Mr.
Sorry, what's the matter?
The issue that I bring it up this morning is a motion on the need for us to take cognizance of the linguistic identity and cultural diversity of the deaf people and sign language. September 23rd, while we were on vacation, was the International Day of Sign Language. And I took notice that...
we have to get approval first. And you have come under 42, right? Okay. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the request of our colleague that he is allowed to present his motion the next legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Because you have come under 42, 42 is, you take it the next legislative day, which will be Tuesday. Tomorrow is a public holiday. So you can bring the motion on Tuesday. Business arose, take note, please. Senator Deji Eremie Biyo Barakuma.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Degi Eremie, Bayelsa East Senatorial District. Mr. President, I wish to rely on Order 42 and 52 of our standing orders. And with your permission, may I read?
Which order is that? Okay.
The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, my point of order is on the alarming nature of terror vented on the people.
Distinguished, what we are required to do now is to give us a synopsis of what you want in the motion, and then we put it to vote first.
Yes, Mr. President, my motion is concerning the alarming nature of terror vented on the people of Bayelsa State, particularly the Ogboa town through Nembe, the Brass, leading to other coastal communities in Bayelsa East Senatorial District, where pirates have laid siege on the waterways. The people, fishermen and women, can no longer go for their fishing activities on account of the daily occurrence of pirate attacks and kidnappers.
Okay, we had a discussion yesterday on this, and my advice to you was, and will remain, that you bring a substantive motion, because this is not something that is happening now, and if something is not done, something would happen. We sympathize, but I think it is better you bring it in a substantive motion. That was my advice yesterday. We can't take this under matter of urgent public importance. We have motions in order paper for today, so you can present it on Tuesday. And I will advise that what we need to do is to come under order 42, so that, like Senator Tolu, you also get your motion listed for Tuesday next week, if that is okay with you, because that was my advice to you yesterday.
Yes, Mr. President, I don't have a choice because your opinion is superior. However, I hereby amend my prayer to reflect order 42 of our standing orders alone.
Okay, thank you very much. So I put the question. Distinguished colleague, those in favor of the request of our colleague that he is allowed to present his motion the next legislative day under our standing order 42, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. So distinguished, you present your motion on Tuesday. Leader of the Senate. Oh, sorry, Senator Matthew Rogide.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Matthew Urogide. I represent Edo South Senatorial District. Mr. President, I'm coming under order 40.
Senator Lau. Senator Shaib Lau. Senator Shaib Lau. Senator Shaib Lau, please allow Senator Emmanuel Boacha to be in peace. You know, he's working out and he's protected.
Your Excellency, please, can I read order 43?
Yeah, you may read.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, or no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President when his leave to make it a sought. Mr. President, I want to bring before you and the distinguished Senate that you recall too that on the 19th of September, governorship election held in Edo State. Mr. President, oftentimes when our national institutions are made to carry out elections, what you hear are always stories of woe. But this time, I want to say that the story is very different, and then of course, very encouraging to all of us in Nigeria. This thing would not have been possible if not for the promise that was kept by Mr. President.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
If the promise of fairness that was promised that Mr. President was not carried to the letter, I want to say and put on record that the people of Edo State, even though my governor and a few of us who are elected, went to thank Mr. President for providing the ambient for INEC and the police to discharge their duty without fear or favor. This is why I'm coming for the Senate to say it very openly and clearly that what Mr. President did in ensuring free, fair election on the 19th of September in Edo State gives hope to this country. And I want to tell the Senate that we are not ashamed, even though we are in opposition, to commend Mr. President and some of the institutions too, like INEC, that discharge their duty to the best of their ability to ensure that the will of the people prevailed in that election. Also, I want to use the opportunity to thank a few individuals and institutions that ensure free, fair election in 19 Edo State. Apart from INEC and the police, because the IGP too, we had the opportunity of meeting with him, and he promised the Nigerian police will carry out their duties fairly and faithfully. Indeed, they did that. INEC promised fairness to all. INEC did that. From where the votes were cast at the polling units to collation centers, we followed all this into the letter, and we found out that yes, they did the correct thing. That will give hope to Nigerians. I want to use the opportunity to thank our very highly revered Oba of Benin, Omonoba Edo, that the first peace initiative or meeting that he convened added a whole lot of pep to the whole process. And of course, the people of Edo State, I want to thank them, because everybody on both sides of the divide were determined that we're going to express our sovereignty, our choice very freely through the ballot box, and that they did. I want to put on record that people were not hurt, nobody was killed, and we had a free, fair election. And finally, the Peace Initiative Commission led by the Abdul Salam Abubakar, they came to the state to ensure that peace agreements were signed by both candidates and both parties. All these ones added to the ambience, to the very conducive atmosphere that was in place.
Order, please. Thank you very much, very distinguished Senator Matthew Rogire, and today is a very good day for democracy in Nigeria, even though some of our colleagues here are in opposition, but the two distinguished senators who spoke, Senator Matthew Rogire and the Deputy Minority Leader, eulogized the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, the APC administration, and they have very solid and stable grounds for doing so. And this is how it should be. I want to congratulate the people of Edo State, and I want to congratulate the PDP in Edo for winning the election. We are looking forward to October, when the APC will do the same here, and congratulate the President, the IG, and everybody for fair and free elections. And I hope that the opposition will not see that election as compromise and the rest of it, but well done for that very frank and patriotic submission. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in my name on the Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, first reading.
Chartered Institute of Public Administration of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2020, HB 329, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues,
The second business of the day is the presentation of an executive bill standing in my name on the Petroleum Industry Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Petroleum Industry Bill 2020, first reading.
Petroleum Industry Bill 2020, SB 510, first reading taken. Leader, before we go to the next bill, let me, Clerk, we need to have the bill, the PIB, distributed to all the senators. When can you do that? Tomorrow? Before Tuesday, please. By Monday, every senator must have a copy of the PIB. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in my name on the Donkey Slaughter Regulation and Export Certification Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Donkey Slaughter Regulation and Export Certification Bill, SB 505, first reading.
Donkey Slaughter Regulation and Export Certification Bill 2020, SB 496, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Omar Tanko Almakura on the Nigerian Mineral Development Corporation Establishing a Central Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigeria Mineral Development Corporation established etc. Bill 2020. First.
Nigerian Mineral Development Corporation Establishment etc. Bill 2020, SB 505, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of our bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Mohammed Sani Musa on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, first reading.
1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria Alteration Bill 2020, SB 499, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the distinguished name of distinguished Senator Ike Ekoremadu on the Presidential Inauguration Bill 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Presidential Inauguration Bill, SB 296, first reading.
Presidential Inauguration Bill 2020, SB 296, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is the presentation of the report of the Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning and Economic Affairs on the 21 to 23 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, MTEF, and Fiscal Strategy Paper. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Solomon Olamilekong Adiola, Chairman of the committee, to move a motion to receive the report.
Senator Solomon Adiola Olamilekong.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adiola Solomon Olamilekong, representing Lagos West Senatorial District. Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, may I move that the Senate do receive the report of the Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning and Economic Affairs on the report of the 2021-2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy Paper. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, I so move.
Senator Barrow, Jibrin, second, please.
I am Senator Ambassadorial Brain, I represent Kano North. I stand to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman Finance Committee. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate receives the report of our joint committee on national finance, national planning, and economic affairs, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may lay the report, please. Chairman, business rules. We make copies of the report just laid, and we make sure every senator gets it before Tuesday, so that we are able to take the MTF on Tuesday. This is supposed to precede the presentation of the budget. Clerk, please also ensure that this is achieved. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as the Chairman and Commissioners of the National Population Commission in accordance with Section 154, subsection 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. Number 1, Nasir Isa Kwara, Nasarawa, Chairman. Number 2, Ali Silas Agara, Nasarawa, Commissioner. Number 3, Muhammad Chiso A. Dottijo, Sokoto, Commissioner. Number 4, Gidado Razak Following Show, Kwara, Commissioner. Number 5, Ibrahim Muhammad, Bauchi, Commissioner. Number 6, Honorable Joseph Kwali Shazi, FCT, Commissioner. Number 7, Ajayi Ayodeji Sunday, Ekiti, Commissioner. Number 8, Garba A.G. Zakari, Kofa Hausa, Kafin Hausa, Jigawa, Commissioner. Number 9, Mai Aliu Muhammad, Yobe, Commissioner. Number 10, Muhammad Muttaqarini, Zamfara, Commissioner. Number 11, Honorable Engineer Bala Almu Banye, Katsina, Commissioner. Number 12, Mrs. Bimbola Saluhudein, Lagos, Commissioner. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. That's all move.
Minority Leader. Minority Leader.
Use the yellow button, yellow button.
I rise to support the motion ably moved by the leader. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate refers to the relevant committee for the confirmation request of Mr. President, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. President, CNC, is hereby referred to the Senate Committee on National Population and National Identity Card for further legislative action to return within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as Chairman, Executive Vice Chairman, Chief Executive, Executive Commissioners, and Non-Executive Commissioner of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission in accordance with Section 5, subsection 1 and subsection 2 of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission Act 2018. The following names are involved. Number 1, Barrister Emeka Nwakpa, Chairman, Southeast. Number 2, Babatunde Irukera, Vice Chairman, Chief Executive, North Central. Number 3, Mrs. Yinka Oshoba Apata, Executive Commissioner, Southwest. Number 4, Adamu Ahmed Abdullahi, Executive Commissioner, Northeast. Number 5, Air Vice Marshal Wakili Abdullahi Ahmed, Non-Executive Commissioner, Northwest. Number 6, Ayan Francis Ayam, Non-Executive Commissioner, South-South. Number 7, Dr. Ben Nwoye, Non-Executive Commissioner, Southeast. Number 8, Chief Theophilus S. Oyebi, Non-Executive Commissioner, North Central. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action.
Honorable Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that the Senate do consider the request of Mr. President in confirmation of the aforementioned names for referral to the appropriate committee.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we refer the request of Mr. President CNC to consider to the relevant committee to consider the confirmation of his nominees, say aye. Those against any, the ayes have it. The request of Mr. President CNC for confirmation consideration is hereby referred to the Committee on Trade and Investment to report back within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is a motion requesting for the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief on the resolution of the National Assembly for the approval of the reimbursement of 148.14 billion through the issuance of promissory notes to Bayelsa, Cross River, Ondo, River State Government for federal road projects executed by the states as follows. Number 1, Bayelsa State, 38,454,568,783.40 naira. Number 2, Cross River State, 18,394,732,608.85 naira. Ondo State, 7,832,147,577.08 naira. Number 4 instead of 5. Osun State, 4,567,456,673.63 naira. Number 5, River State, 78,953,067,518.29 naira. The total is 148,141,969,161.24 naira. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. I move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion, Mr. President, that the Senate do consider the request of the President and the request for resolution of the National Assembly for approval of the reimbursement of 148.14 billion through the issuance of promissory note. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. President C for the approval for reimbursement of the funds to states is referred to the Senate Committee on Local and Foreign Debts to report by within 2 weeks. But before I call the leader, who is from Rivers? Who is here? I can't see Sekibo. Oh, Senator Betty Apiafi. I thought you say you will commend the federal government for this. Because out of the 148, only 16 billion is going to APC states. The remaining fund is going to PDP states. So this is to say that okay. All right, thank you very much. Leader of the Senate. Sorry? No observation unless we come under a standing order. Is it in the numbers? Senator Govin.
Which order is that? Which order?
Your Excellency, because this actually involves, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues, this reimbursement involves some of the roads construction. This reimbursement involves roads construction and some other things. So that's why I'm saying that it should, instead of going to foreign debts, it should go to what?
No, this is not something that the Federal Minister of Works has done or is doing. This is something done by the states, and the states or the federal government now owes the states. So it's the tradition in this Senate has been that it is local and foreign debts, our Committee on Local and Foreign Debts, that handles it. And we intend to maintain that tradition. Senator Aleru.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Muhammad Adamu Aleru, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, I come under Order 9850, which says there should be a committee to be known as Committee on Works appointed at the commencement of the life of the Senate. The jurisdiction of the committee shall include federal highways. Mr. President, these roads that were rehabilitated or reconstructed by the state governments are federal roads. And the Ministry of Works was the one that issued the bill of estimates and what have you, bill of quantities. And it was supervised by the Federal Ministry of Works. And equally, it's the Ministry of Works that took the request to the Federal Executive Council. And it was the Minister of Works that presented the request to the Executive Council. And it is the jurisdiction of the Committee of Works to go and inspect what has been done before it can go to the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. Otherwise, the Committee of Works will be rendered useless. We inspected these roads. Some of them were not even constructed. We should not just sit here and approve over 148 billion naira without certifying that the work has been done. And some of my colleagues who went to Southeast and South-South to see this road can testify to this. So I believe, Mr. President, the Committee on Works should be allowed to inspect these roads and come back to the Senate with a report before it can be referred to the Committee on Local and Foreign Debts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished Senator Alero. Just like I responded to the submission by Senator Brown Gobir, these roads, yes, undeniably and factually they are federal roads, but the state governments work on them, spend their money to construct them. Now it's a question of refunding the funds of the states. And this is supposed to be under the jurisdiction of domestic and foreign affairs committee. And this has been the tradition in this Senate. And I think we should leave it as such, because it's not only roads that we refer to the Committee on Foreign Affairs, even other infrastructure. When reforms will be made, the jurisdiction falls with the Committee on Foreign and Domestic Debt. So the request is referred to the Committee on Foreign Debt. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as non-career ambassadors designate in accordance with Section 171, Subsection 1, Subsection 2C, Subsection 4 of the Constitution for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. They are as follows. Number 1, Ambassador Mohammed Haruna Manta, non-career ambassador, Niger State. Number 2, Alhaji Yusuf Mohammed, non-career ambassador, Yobe State. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the purpose of this motion is for the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. And I so move.
Leader, it's okay, you can take your seat. There is a mistake here, Secretariat. These are the names that have been replaced. These are the names that have been replaced. They were submitted before, but they were replaced by two names, and you reflected the old names that have been replaced. So it's a mistake. Check the... These names have been replaced. Where are the... Distinguished colleagues, there is a mix-up. There is a mix-up. What the President's letter indicated that Ambassador Mohammed, okay, the first one is correct, Ambassador Mohammed Haruna Muhammad Haruna Manta. Niger, where is Sani? Okay, Sani Musa is not here. So the letter says, recall the submission, earlier submission of Air Commodore Peter Ndabake Ghana retired and Alhaji Yusuf Mohammed. These are the initial names submitted from Niger and Yobe State respectively, who were not confirmed, and kindly substitute Air Commodore Peter. So the first name is correct on the other paper, but the second one for Yobe, Alhaji Yusuf Mohammed, is replaced with Yusuf Yunusa. So we need to correct, leader, we need to correct the second one. It's supposed to be Yusuf Yunusa, not Yusuf Mohammed. Secretariat, is that okay? Okay, minority leader. Leader, you can now do this again.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, given the typographical error and the mistake that has been made in my earlier submission, I wish to formally effect a correction. The first person on the list is correctly stated as Ambassador Mohammed Haruna Manta, non-career ambassador representing Niger State. The second person nominated is Yusuf Yunusa for a non-career ship ambassador position representing Yobe State. I so move.
Minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. President C&C for confirmation of the non-career ambassadors designate is hereby referred to our Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs for further legislative action to report that within 2 weeks. The chairman, Foreign Affairs, is not here. The vice chairman too. Who is a member of the Foreign Affairs Committee? Okay. I think you and your colleagues will handle it. Maybe you lead, because we let Ignatius Young was the vice chairman, and the current chairman is not here too. Distinguished Senator Ambassador Bilkachwa. So the committee should consider that, and maybe you take the lead. So we have 2 weeks to report back. We have 2 nominees. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as Chairman, Director General, and Executive Commissioners for the National Pension Commission in accordance with Section 19, Subsection 3 of the Pension Reforms Act 2014. They are as follows. Number 1, Dr. Oyinda Shola Oluremi Oni, North Central, Chairman. Number 2, Aisha Dair Umar, North East, Director General. Number 3, Hannatu Hanne Musa Musa, Northwest, Commissioner. Number 4, Clement Oyedele Akintola, Southwest, Commissioner. Number 5, Ayem C. Nyerere, Southeast, Commissioner. Number 6, Charles F.A. Sylvester Omuko Wait, South-South, Commissioner. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the purpose of this motion is for the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that this request be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action, and I move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain in Baribe, Abia South, and I stand to second the motion while still maintaining my objection to number 2, the Director General. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. Presidency in C for the consideration of information of the chairman, DG, and commissioners for the PENCOM is hereby referred to the Senate Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters for further legislative action to report back within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of the nomination of the following justices of the Court of Appeal for appointment as justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in accordance with Section 231, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. They are as follows. Number 1, Honorable Justice M. Lawal Garba, Northwest. Number 2, Honorable Justice Helen M. Ogumuyuji, Southwest. Number 3, Honorable Justice Adu Aboki, Northwest. Number 4, Honorable Justice I.M.M. Saulawa, Northwest. Number 5, Hon. Justice Adamu Jauro, Northeast. Number 6, Hon. Justice Samuel C. Oseji, South-South. Number 7, Hon. Justice Tijani Abubakar, Northeast. Number 7, Hon. Justice Emmanuel A. Agi, South-South. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion is for the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief be referred to the appropriate committee. I move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. Presidency in C for the confirmation of the nominees is hereby referred to the Senate Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights and Legal Matters for further legislative action to report back within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate. Leader, so you have your...
And they haven't brought the... Hey, bring the... Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day, the seventh order of the day is the second reading of the executive bill standing in my name on the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria Act, Cap F5, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 21st November 2019. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the bill be read the second time.
You may proceed.
Lead debate on the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2020. Sponsor, Abdullahi Yahya Abubakar, Governor and Senate Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on this important bill which seeks to repeal the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria Act 11 Cap F5 Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 and to reenact the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria Act 2019 to provide for the effective management of airports in Nigeria. Under the bill, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, that is the FAN, retains its responsibility of providing effective management, necessary services and facilities for the safe, secure, orderly, expeditious, and economic operation of airports and air transport in Nigeria. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 21st November 2019. The bill also provides that subject to the prior approval of fund, no person is permitted to commence construction or reconstruction of an aerodrome in Nigeria. Any person who fails to obtain the approval of fund before commencing construction or reconstruction of an aerodrome commits an offense and will be liable to a fine not exceeding 5 million naira, about $16,200 in the case of a corporate body, or 2 million naira, that is about $6,500 in case of an individual. The bill confers powers on Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to appoint, contract, liaise, or cooperate with experts, including specialized agencies, resource persons, academic and technical institutes, advisory committees, etc., in order to assist it in carrying out its functions and duties. In addition, the bill provides that a fund must be maintained by Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, where monies appropriated by a fund by the National Assembly, federal government, in respect of services provided or rendered by it will be deposited. Any person who collects and fails to remit monies into the fund managed by a fund commits an offense and will be liable on conviction to imprisonment for a term of 2 years and must also refund the monies owed. For other offenses committed under the bill, a person in the case of an individual will be liable to a fine of not less than 500,000 naira or $1,600 to a term of 6 months imprisonment or both. In the case of body corporate, they will be liable to a fine of not less than 2 million naira or $6,500. The bill will ensure increased efficiency, flexibility, and interoperability of systems and harmonization of procedures that will enable the authority to implement new and national safety requirements in air transport systems in Nigeria. The functions of the authority under the new bill will be: 1. Develop, provide, and maintain airports within Nigeria and provide all necessary services and facilities for the safe, secure, orderly, and expeditious and economic operation of air transport. 2. Provide adequate airport facilities and services under which passengers and goods may be transported by air and under which aircraft may be used for other gainful purposes. 3. To provide accommodation and other facilities and services for effective handling of passengers and freight at airports. 4. To develop and provide facilities and services for surface air transport within airports. 5. To provide adequate facilities, services, and personnel for effective security at airports owned by the federal government. 7. To provide personnel for security at state and privately owned airports. 8. To create conditions for the development in the most economic and efficient manner of airports and the services connected with airports. And 10. To do anything which in its opinion is calculated to facilitate the carrying out of its duties under this Act. Conclusion. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the business reform happening now at the authority is long overdue, as the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria is in dire need of same in order to achieve the much needed growth and attract investment. It is common knowledge that the airports are largely determined by global conditions, and Nigeria must attain such conditions. The repeal and re-implementation of Fund Bill, when passed into law, will have the overall effect of making the Nigerian airport industry more in tune with today's air services realities, improve air safety, environment, as well as mitigate direct compliance costs for air businesses in Nigeria. I therefore urge my respected colleagues to support this bill for the second reading. I therefore move.
Thank you, Leader. Chairman Aviation, do you have anything to say? Can you second and make your contribution?
Thank you. Your Excellency, Mr. Senate President, I rise to second the presentation of this bill. And in doing that, Mr. President, I want to urge my colleagues to allow this bill to pass through the second reading for the third reading, for public hearing. In this way, Mr. President, I took a look at some of the prayers that this bill is asking us to support. I hold the view, Mr. President, that it is very much in order to make it mandatory for whoever we construct eardrum to seek approval from FAN. This is so when you take a look at the challenges that we have faced today as a nation. Today, Mr. President, there have been a lot of issues bordering on security where allegations were made. There are people who saw helicopters landing at night, dropping arms in different parts of our nation. Therefore, Mr. President, there's no doubt that we have some hidden eardrums and helipads where terrorists operate in Nigeria. If you look at the uncountable number of sophisticated arms in our nation today, many of those arms, based on presentation of some of our colleagues here, were alleged to have been imported to the country using some of these secret eardrums and helicopter pads. Also, Mr. President, this bill is seeking, among other things, to open up the airport more for business transactions involving companies and experts that will join in improving and accelerating the aviation industry. Aviation is key to our socio-economic development. In fact, aviation today is the life of the economy of any nation. So whatsoever is required to make it more efficient and effective, I think we should give the support to the aviation authorities. I believe, Mr. President, if this bill is allowed to go for the third reading, a lot of these issues being raised will definitely pass through the third reading, because more than ever before, we have all come to the reality of the role of the aviation industry. Until the aviation authorities opened up the international routes, Mr. President, you recall that the economy of Nigeria was very, very docile. But as soon as the international flights started operating, economic activities pick up the game. Some of us may not be privileged to travel, but those who are in business, and some of them are seated here, like Senator Abaribanko, they will appreciate what I'm saying, that we should give support for the aviation industry in Nigeria so that they can meet modern day challenges and help in the efforts of our government in developing our nation. In saying this, Mr. President, I will use this occasion to raise an issue. Very soon, Mr. President, we'll be talking about the need to ensure that some strategic states are allowed to have some small airports that will complement strategic industries and FCT. I'm talking in relation of the Iron and Steel complex, which President Muhammad Buhari is committed to. There used to be an airport there those days, before that government came and they ruined all those things. I hope when we'll be discussing the aviation budget, we'll be looking at how we can get those airports functional to complement the effort of our government in rehabilitating Iron and Steel complex. And of course, don't forget, just yesterday, the president flagged off the rail to Warri. If you have an airport there, it will help people from Abuja here who may want to go to Warri to just land at Ajakuta. From there, you don't the train, you are in Warri. So, Mr. President, these are some of the prayers of this bill, and I so urge my colleagues to please support this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished chairman. I will put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against any, the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, CAF F5, laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004 to enact the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria Act, provide for the effective management of airports in Nigeria and for related matters 2020 SB 196, second reading.
A bill for an act to repeal the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria Act, Cap F5, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, to enact the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria Act, to provide for the effective management of airports in Nigeria and for related matters 2020, second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Senate Committee on Aviation to report back within 4 weeks. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 8th order of the day is the second reading of the executive bill standing in my name on the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau Establishment, etc. Bill 2020. Mr. President, and distinguished senators, we recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 21st November 2019. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the bill be read the second time.
You may proceed, please.
Thank you, sir. This is the lead debate on the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau Establishment Bill 2020, Senate Bill 197, sponsored by Abdullahi Yahya Abubakar, Cabinet and Senate Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, please permit me to lead the debate on this very important bill for the establishment of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB. The bill was read the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 21st November 2019. This bill seeks to establish the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau as an independent federal government agency which will be responsible for determining and the probable cause of all transportation accidents and serious incidents, publishing findings and make the necessary recommendations to operators, regulators, and general public to promote transportation safety. In Nigeria, the main modes of transportation are road and air. However, recent developments have seen the development of and return to railways and an increase in the use of our inland waterways as alternate methods of transportation. The undesirable risks associated with all modes of transportation include the occurrence of accidents and incidents which may endanger lives and damage property. It is therefore incumbent upon the state to ensure user safety and provide the appropriate framework by which any safety deficiencies in our transport network system can be thoroughly, objectively, and independently investigated with a view to preventing recurrence. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the objective of ensuring safety is best achieved through research and investigations into all incidents and accidents conducted by a duly appointed and recognized authority. The outcomes of such investigations should enable the development of appropriate policies and codes of practice, as well as public awareness with the aim of ensuring acceptable national transportation safety standards and practices. So far, air transportation is the only mode of transportation in Nigeria which benefits from totally independent and internationally accredited accident investigation conducted through the Accident Investigation Bureau. The Accident Investigation Bureau, and once a part of CAD, now evolved in compliance with internationally recognized standards of investigations into serious incidents and accidents within the aviation sector. The road networks experience multiple accidents year in, year out. And while the effort of Nigerian police force and roadside rescue agents such as the Rescue Safety Commission is to be commended, the need to understand why these accidents occur and to prevent their reoccurrence cannot be overstated. This applies also to Nigerian transportation on our waterways and railways. Mr. President, distinguished senators,
there is a need to ensure the safety of our national transport network, and investigative research plays a vital role in this process. The current practice where regulators and transport operators are involved in the investigative processes if their own incident compromises the integrity of the investigation and does not conform to the globally recognized standards. Furthermore, the fact that occurrences of these incidents persist is evidence of the deficiency of the current structure and practices. To ensure efficiency and effectiveness in this pursuit, there is a need to create a unified body which is completely independent in its organization, operation, and decision-making processes from the transport operators themselves, from the policy makers and regulators, and other parties whose interests would conflict with the task which organization is entrusted. The purpose of NSIB is to enable the segregation of investigative activities and promote safety through the conduct of transparent, independent, and objective investigations in all cases of serious incidents and accidents involving any of the current modes of transportation in Nigeria. It is not intended for apportioning blame, but to provide technically and scientifically accurate, appropriate, and timely information which could be used by transportation stakeholders to implement measures to prevent their recurrence and potentially mitigate the damage caused by them. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, accident investigation is a highly scientific process that requires technical knowledge, field experience, and above all, time. The volume of activity in maritime and railways in Nigeria do not necessitate the establishment of individual investigative agencies. This system exists in countries like the United Kingdom, which serves as a major hub in Europe for all four modes of transportation: air, rail, maritime, and pipelines. In countries with similar networks to the Nigerian transport system and with a developed independent air accident investigation agency, the logical progression has been to restructure the agency into multimodal investigative body. This is mainly because the aviation industry is very highly regulated and possesses the requisite technical knowledge and expertise, of all of which are highly transferable and applicable in the investigation of accidents affecting the other modes of transportation, that is railway, roads, and marine. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the NSIB bill would promote the concept of a single agency that would develop a higher level of safety than individual model agencies ever could, working separately. It is to provide for the establishment of a permanent, independent, technically competent, scientific, and effective legal and unified institutional framework. The objective is to optimize the capacity, resources, and functionality of the Accident Investigation Bureau for the investigation of all transportation incidents in Nigeria, including air, road, rail, waterways, and pipelines. The bill also covers incidents which occur anywhere that Nigerian interest is involved, or where the transportation vehicle is a Nigerian carrier. A multimodal investigation agency also potentially offers opportunities for other economic benefits through offering support to neighboring states and providing local accident investigation training facilities. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, a multimodal investigation system would only serve to enhance Nigeria's contribution and participation as a member of this organization. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, in line with Order 77, subsection 3 of our standing rules, this bill has no financial implications as the capacity and resources already exist within the Accident and Investigation Bureau, which has recorded significant successes in its recommendations and contribution to air safety. I urge all of you, my colleagues, to support this bill in the second reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Einaya Baribe, Abia South. Mr. President, I want to commend also the leader of the Senate. I just got one problem, and the problem is the fact that if we load one agency with these matters, I wonder how that agency is going to be able to carry. Just take roads. Roads have agencies in each state. Accidents occur all over the country. And therefore, when you now load one agency in Nigeria with having to investigate accidents, which one will it pick and which one will it leave? And so I do not think that this agency should include roads, for example. I think that if you are talking about rail lines, the rail lines are well defined and therefore can be part of this, because we will not see that. If it is the maritime, we're also going to run into the same problem like roads. Since we do have the inland waterways and we have the coastal lines and we have the ones that are along the rivers all over the country. And so rather than have an agency where you're going to overload it and they will now decide to pick and choose which one they're going to investigate, it will be possible, while we refer this to the committee, that the committee, in looking at it, will reduce the scope of this particular agency rather than make it so wide and all-encompassing. I so submit.
Senator Engineer Kababurkia.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator Engineer Kabir Abdullah Barkia, representing Katsina Central. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support at least the passage of this bill, which is very, very important. Of course, safety in everywhere is important. So, Mr. President, I know we have many sectors in the agencies, at least in charge of safety. Maybe like Federal Road Safety Commission, BIO is there, and also Federal Ministry of Works. There's a whole department called Traffic Department. So if, of course, there's an agency that all these other agencies will come under, this is very important. I think something reasonable will come up. Because you can see that, of course, the main transport, the major transport in this country is roads. And therefore, that's also the major cause of accident, maybe either by potholes or whatever, wash out. So if this agency is created, it will liaise with Federal Ministry of Works, Federal Road Safety, and also the BIO, so that yes, they can work together to see how could at least they could at least reduce, minimize, if not eliminate, this issue of the accident, which of course is causing losing of lives and property. So, Mr. President, I really rise to support this passage. It's very, very important bill for the safety of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. I put the question. Those in favor that this will be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have been. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau for the regulation, prevention, and providing effective administration for safety investigation in Nigeria and for related matters 2020 SB 197, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau for the regulation, prevention, and providing effective administration for safety investigation in Nigeria and for related matters 2020, second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Aviation to report back within 4 weeks. Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the second reading of the Federal College of Education Omo Ekiti Establishment Etc. Bill 2020. The distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Thursday, 13 February 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the distinguished Senator Biodun Olujimi to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Biodun Olujimi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Biodun Olujimi. I represent Ekiti South. Mr. President, thank you for the benefit to lead the debate on the bill to establish the Federal College of Education in Ekiti, Ekiti State, and for all the matters connected therewith. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill was passed in the 8th Senate but was not assented to due to paucity of funds, and so it is being returned to the 9th Senate. The bill, Mr. President, seeks to provide the establishment of the Federal College of Education in Ekiti, Ekiti State. The bill was read for the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, the 13th of February this year. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we all know that education is the bedrock of every society. The existence of a sound and robust educational system in any country is predicated on the availability of qualified and well-trained teachers to impact the required knowledge, skills, discipline, and values on the students. Thus, the need to have a strong system in the educational sector that will continuously produce well-qualified, trained, disciplined, and God-fearing teachers. The objects of the college shall be to encourage the advancement of learning and to hold out to all persons without distinction of race, creed, sex, or political conviction. To develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to the award of certificates, degrees, postgraduate research, diploma, and higher degrees. An emphasis on planning, developmental, and adaptive skills in education, technology, applied science, agri, commerce, arts, social science, humanities, management, and allied professional disciplines. To produce socially mature educational men and women with capabilities, not only to understand educational need of Nigeria as a nation, but also to exploit existing educational infrastructure and improve on it to develop new ones. To act as agents and catalysts for effective educational system through postgraduate training, research and innovation for effective economic utilization and conservation of the country's human resources. To bring quality change in education by focusing on teacher education through teaching and learning innovations. To collaborate with other national and international institutions involved in training, research and development of education with a view to promoting governance, leadership and management skills among educational managers. To identify educational needs of the society with a view to finding solutions to them within the context of overall national development. To provide and promote sound basic education training as a foundation for the development of Nigeria, taking into account indigenous culture and the need to enhance national unity. To provide higher education and foster a systemic advancement of the science and art of teacher education. To provide for instruction in such branches of teacher education as it may deem necessary to make provision for research advancement and dissemination of knowledge in such manner as it makes stand. To provide teachers with operational competence for teaching in pre-tertiary institutions, basic, senior secondary schools, and non-formal education institutions. To undertake any other activities that is appropriate for a college of education of the highest standard. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may wish to know that Ekiti is the headquarters of Ekiti East local government area, where towns and villages such as Ilasha, Araranyoke, Omuoke, Ikwaba, Edaile, and Isimbode are situated, and the area harbors institutions like Omo Comprehensive High School, Omora Secondary School, Amono Comprehensive High School, and so on. Despite the existence of numerous secondary schools in the area, it cannot boast of any federal higher institution within 120 kilometers radius, unlike its counterparts in other senatorial districts. The enactment of this bill will not only help in transforming the decayed educational infrastructures in Nigeria, but also help in the development of the hitherto neglected district of the state. Distinguished senators, the economic recovery and growth plan of the federal government is in tandem with the provision of this proposed bill, as it is set to improve teacher quality by incentivizing performance and building capabilities and capacities. Therefore, distinguished colleagues, it is my prayer that this Senate do consider the plight of the people of my state and my senatorial district in their quest for the establishment of the college by supporting the expeditious passage of this bill. Mr. President, the bill comes with a very moderate financial compendium because the people of the local government have decided to provide most of the structures. I thank you very much, Mr. President.
Senator Bala Ibn Allah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. First is to write the second reading of this very important bill. Mr. President, we have, as at today, an approximate population of over 180 million Nigerians. Some forecasts have said we are about 200 million. So what it means is that if we plan so well and concentrate on our planning, we possess the capability to remain the learning center of West Africa as far as education is concerned, more especially Ikiti, where virtually every household has a professor. Mr. President, education is a huge industry in the world. If we embark on good planning and training our teachers in line with the aspiration of this bill, what it means is that our educational system will reach a standard whereby other African countries will find it convenient to come to Nigeria and do their schooling. Mr. President, if you look at C in the lead debate, one of the aims of this bill is to produce socially matured educational men and women with capabilities not only to understand educational needs of Nigeria as a nation, but also to exploit existing educational infrastructure and improve on it in order to develop new ones. But I think more importantly, Mr. President, is paragraph H of the lead debate, which says the intention is to provide and promote sound basic education training as a foundation for the development of Nigeria, taking into account indigenous culture and the need to enhance national unity. Those of us who have had the privilege of going to this premier university knew that the seed of unity normally is planted in them, and that's why maybe some form of the unity we are enjoying today, the country has been able to sustain. So I think that it's not only in Ikiti, wherever it is possible in the 6 geopolitical zones to develop this kind of federal university of federal college of education that will concentrate on turning out qualified manpower to meet our educational needs for teaching should be encouraged. It is in line with this that I formally second the second reading of this bill, and I urge my colleagues to do so. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. Ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Ekiti State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2020 SB 269, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Education, Ekiti State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2020 second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund to report back within 4 weeks. Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th order of the day is the second reading of the allocation of revenue, Federation account, etc. Act, Cap A15, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, Amendment Bill 2020. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 12 March 2020. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Albert Basi Akpan to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Albert Basi Akpan.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished and respected colleagues, Senator Albert Basi Akpan, Akwa Ibom Northeast. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, it is my honor and privilege to lead this debate on the allocation of revenue, Federation account, etc. at Cap A15 Elephant 2004 Amendment Bill 2020. The first reading of this bill took place in this chamber on the 12th of May 2020. This bill seeks to amend the allocation of revenue, Federation account, etc. at Cap A15 Elephant 2004 to make the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, a first-line charge beneficiary of the Federation account for savings purposes. The bill seeks to amend Section 1 of the Principal Act to provide for additional funding for the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, by including the NSIA as the first-line charge beneficiary of the monthly distributable funds for the Federation account. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we had earlier proposed an amendment to Section 162 sub 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended to provide for the inclusion of Nigerian sovereign wealth funds established under the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, Act, etc. Acts in the distribution of any amount standing to the credit of the Federation account. This has been referred to the Constitutional Amendment Committee. We had equally proposed an amendment to Section 30 sub 1 and Section 47 sub 2 of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority 7 Act, Cap A15 Laws of the Federation 2004, to provide additional funds for the sovereign wealth funds through a statutory allocation of funds from the monthly revenue accruing from the Federation account, and strengthen the operations and the withdrawals from the sovereign wealth fund by the Federation to further boost the confidence of the federating units in the operations of the funds to the benefit of all. This has equally been referred to the Senate Committee on Finance for further processes. Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues, the proposed amendment as contained in this bill is therefore to complete the series of amendments in this regard by developing a constitutional and consistent monthly saving culture for the Federation against the rainy day, while guarding against constitutional breaches or conflicts of law. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the bill proposes an amount equivalent to 20% of the amount standing to the credit of the Federation account, less the statutory 13% of revenue accruing to the Federation account directly from the natural resources to be allocated to the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority on a monthly basis. Mr. President and my distinguished and other colleagues, let me strongly emphasize that the need for a dedicated saving culture to safeguard the Nigerian economy going forward due to the rapidly changing dynamics and volatility of the global oil market. Let us learn our lessons now with the outcome of the COVID-19 pandemic, because none of us knows tomorrow. I thank you for your support, Mr. President, my dear colleagues, towards the speedy passage of this bill into law, and therefore humbly move that this bill be read the second time. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Senator Adiola Solomon Olamilekan.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, let me start by thanking my brother, Senator Akam Basi, for this beautiful bill. Mr. President, what this bill tends to achieve is to secure us as a nation.
Why not?
And what National Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority stands for, in accordance with the act establishing them, is to serve as a reservoir for us as a nation. Every part, every nations of the world have same organization established. If you go into the Sovereign Investment Authority of Norway today, if you look at the amount that is standing to the credit of this particular agency in Norway, you will agree with me that that country is more than secure in terms of revenue. In this part of the divide, it is this administration of President Muhammadu Buhari that have given more life to that agency by making sure that certain amount of money is earmarked every year to that particular agency to be invested on our behalf. Going a step further, I'm telling you, it's a statement of fact. The documentations are there. Now going a step further, seeking for this particular agency to be put on a first-line charge under the revenue distribution. My dear colleague, we cannot have it better than this. And what that tends to show is that on a monthly basis, certain percentage of whatever I put to us as a nation will be given to Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority to be invested on our behalf. And that authority does not serve us as a federal government alone, but the state, the local government, and the federal government. And I believe at this point in time of our nation history, when people are saying sooner than later the issue of oil will be thing of the past, there is need for us to save for the remaining days. So this singular action of trying to put the NSIA as the first line charge with proper monitoring is the right step in the right direction. And we implore all my colleagues to let us support this bill to be read for the second time. I so submit.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really want to second and support this bill because I think that this bill is 47 years late. If by the first oil shock in 1973 that we later claimed that we didn't know what to do with money, this bill had been there, most likely we will not today be in the shape that we are as a nation. But it's never too late to start, and us Igbos, so that whenever you wake up, it's your morning. So now that we are waking up and today is our morning, I want to fully support this bill. I so support.
Senator Biodun.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I rise to support this bill wholeheartedly and adopt what my colleagues have said about it, and also thank Senator Albert Akman for bringing it. It should have come yesterday, like they normally say. However, my own problem with all of this is that we don't have a dearth of laws. The political will to ensure that the laws work is what is lacking. And I hope that with the passage of this particular bill, that will not be lacking. At a point in time, Mr. President, we had kept money for rainy day. And somehow, somewhere, the people who were in charge decided they didn't want the monies kept. Today, COVID has shown us that a country that does not plan for the future is a country that has not planned at all. And that is the reason why this bill must be supported wholeheartedly by every one of us. But we must also tell government that when the bill is passed, somebody must make sure that the bill is respected and that all the clauses are abided with. That is the problem with our laws. And I believe going forward, if our colleagues support in the passage of this, government will not renege on their duties. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'm Dr. Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, I want to join other colleagues in supporting the passage of this bill. But Mr. President, I have a but. And maybe the sponsor of the bill will need to give an explanation for us to make progress on the board that I have on this bill. Mr. President, there's no nation that stabilizes economically without a saving for a rainy day. And our case shouldn't be an exception. For a long period of time, we have complained about lack of savings, and if this Senate we bring a bill that will encourage the nation to do saving, we should encourage that bill. But Mr. President, the problem I have is the second to the last paragraph on the lead debate. And Mr. President, this saving is supposed to be for the country. That means the federal government and the federating units. But the sponsor of the bill said 20% equivalent, that is the federation account, less 13% derivation. That is where I have a problem. If we are doing savings for the country, every person should give. So we cannot take other people's money. You take Benue money, 20%, and then you leave the 13% for states that are beneficiaries. I don't think it's fair. And so, if we are doing 20%, it must be inclusive of the 30% derivation that goes to other states from the source. Take it before the 30% comes. So if we even give them 30%, you know that they're also saving this money. If, for instance, my friend, as an incoming governor, has a problem, he can go there. So he can't be taking 13% and then taking the money that the little that comes to Benue has been saved, then he will go and take it. Mr. President, I think the sponsor of this bill needs to maybe give some clarification, or this Senate will decide if we are passing this bill, which I fully support, we must include the 13% derivation. Mr. President, I will submit.
Senator Abdullahi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues. Yes, as a country, we need savings. As a country, we need to plan for any day. As a country, we must be committed to safeguarding the future of our children and grandchildren. Beautiful. You see, Mr. President, my problem has always been that on that fateful day that we gathered here to elect you as our Senate President, you administered an oath to all of us. And that oath of office says, while serving as senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have covenanted with our God to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the law. Now, I have read the lead debate. Beautiful. The lead debate shows the attempt to ask for the amendment of section 162.3, 31, and 47.2, but more particularly 163.2 of the Constitution. Mr. President, if you permit me, I would like to read section 80 of our Constitution.
You may proceed. Go ahead and read.
Now, section 80 says, all revenues or other monies raised or received by the Federation, not being revenues or other monies payable under this Constitution or any act of the National Assembly into any public fund of the Federation established for a specific purpose, shall be paid into and form one, emphasis, one consolidated revenue fund of the Federation. 2 says, no monies shall be withdrawn from the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation except to meet expenditure that is charged upon the fund by this Constitution, or where the issue of those monies has been authorized by an appropriation act, which is not the case, supplementary appropriation act, which is not the case, or an act passed in pursuance of section 81, passed in pursuance of section 81 of the Constitution. So, sir, it goes to say, no money shall be withdrawn from any public fund of the Federation other than the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation unless the issue of those monies has been authorized by an act of the National Assembly, which is under what distinguished Senator Akram is trying to say. But it says again, no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated revenue fund or any other fund of the Federation except in a manner prescribed by the National Assembly. That is what gives us power to prescribe how this money can be taken to the sovereign national fund. But that cannot be done at this stage, sir, without clearly amending subsection 2 of section 80 of our own Constitution. 81, sir, which says it's only in pursuance of this that we can do that, says, the President shall cause to be prepared and laid before each houses of the National Assembly at any time in each financial year estimate of the revenues and expenditure of the Federation for the next following financial year. So this is the limiting provision, because what gave us right to do what we are trying to do is limited to what Mr. President has presented before each of the houses of the National Assembly for the purpose of operation or supplementary appropriation. Mr. President, let me say that we cannot, and I repeat, we cannot claim not to know that as of today, our economy is not sufficiently strong to carry the weight of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that's why we resort to borrowing for the purpose of meeting certain expenditures of government. Now, if you do what is called cost-benefit analysis, which I'm sure my brother Yahi knows, is that if, for example, by saving 2 trillion naira in 1 year, based on that law, we have an interest of 3 trillion naira to pay. It does not make sense. So we will have done incalculable damage, an avoidable one, to the economic infrastructure of Nigeria. So my own thinking is this. I support the second reading of this bill, but when it comes to public hearing, we should carry and consider carefully the implication, or what the accountant will say, the financial implication of sitting down to pass this law, which he himself, with the greatest respect, sir, said that while saving for the rainy day, we must guard against constitutional breaches and conflict of laws. That's what he said, sir. Now, conflict of laws will come when we now accept the fact that we are not only doing internal borrowing, but we sometimes resort to what we call external borrowing, which we all know. Now, if the lex legislatus or the lex domicili does not favor us to embark on this position, it means we will have sat here as a Senate to shoot ourselves on the foot for not carefully considering the implication of what we are passing. So I urge that the committee vested with the responsibility to conduct public hearing in respect of this matter to critically weigh the enormity of the decision as is going to be contained in their report vis-a-vis the benefit to the overall interest of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much, sir.
Senator Lukula Musu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ibikunle Amosun, I represent the Central Senatorial District. First, let me join my colleagues in commending Senator Basia for the introduction of this bill. First, let me say that without prejudice to the submission of the last speaker, Senator Nala, as to the propriety or otherwise, particularly with the provision of the section 81 and 2 of the Constitution, I want to say that, just like what he said too, that the nation, all of us will benefit if we adopt the attitude of saving for the rainy days. I think we will when this bill gets to public hearing. I'm sure we will look into whether passage of this bill will be ultra-virus to the provision of the Constitution. And if it does, fortunately this is the time that we are trying to amend the Constitution. I think we can look into that. Number two, he has said something about maybe critically review this thing financially. If and when we do that, I want to submit that, yes, maybe in the early years, maybe the first year or second year, what he's saying will hold in terms of maybe keeping that money and while we are borrowing. But as we say, this will just be what we call a timing difference. Because in the next maybe 3, 4, 5 years, that savings will come handy, such that we will not now need to go a borrowing again. What I have, the only issue that I have with this bill has been highlighted by Senator Susan, and that is to the effect that if we are saving anything, everybody should play its part. We should not maybe remove the 13% derivation from what we are going to maybe set aside. It should be from the source straight. So for me, and having listened to all my other colleagues, I think this is one thing that this night Senate should be remembered for. Look at what has happened, even without COVID. When people say because of this COVID, even without COVID, we should be seen to be doing things like this. We should find a way to be saving for the rainy days, because it will surely happen. Even in the life of any human, you will see ups and downs. So when those down moments come financially, we should be in a position to just have like a buffer and just use it to ameliorate whatever challenges that we are having. So, Mr. President, I would still want to say and support that this bill should be read for second time and should be appropriately maybe sent to the appropriate committee for them to do a proper analysis and consideration. And if and when, just like what I said, it runs in conflict with the provision of the Constitution, we should now endeavor to put that in the constitutional amendment so that we can have savings like this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to express my own support, for second reading of this bill, and particularly for the positions that have been canvassed by Senator Susom and Senator Ibukule Amosu, and also to take note of the everyday legal position that has been put in place and put forward by Senator Balaidin Nanda. Not being a lawyer, Mr. President, I do, from my own small understanding of the provision of the Section 80 of the Constitution, from my own understanding, that section did not preclude the National Assembly from making laws. Read it again. All revenues or other monies raised or received by the Federation, not being revenues or other monies payable under this Constitution or any act of the National Assembly into other public funds of the Federation established for a specific purpose. So I don't think this section really precludes this National Assembly from making laws that are envisaged under the proposed act, under the proposed bill that is being sponsored by Senator Bati Akpan. In addition to this, also, we are only talking mainly about savings. This is not just savings. The money is not just for saving. The money is meant also for investment. Now, if you invest, the idea is that you are going to get revenue. Those revenues that you get from that investment are going to be taken back into the Federation accounts. Now, depending on how sagacious, and effective your investments are, you may realize even much more revenue. Take what is happening in Norway, for example. A lot of the oil resources of Norway are not actually consumed as royalties. No, they put them under an investment authority. The revenue from that investment authority is the one that is put into the budget of Norway on an annual basis for them to realize more revenue and also for them to be able to put development into their economy. So with this, Mr. President, I do recognize a lot of the issues that have been raised by Senator Nanda, but I think this is a very, very important bill. We should see the light of the day, and we should allow the relevant committee to do its work, and then we should also bring it into a very vigorous public debate, during the discussions going to be around this, so that we can come up with something, that this nation can stand on in terms of need. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Michael Okwemi Bamidele, representing Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I will not attempt to repeat any of the issues that have been raised by my colleagues in trying to discuss the merits or otherwise of this bill. I'm only rising to speak as to the constitutionality of this whole process. Mr. President, something cannot be based on nothing. We cannot begin to talk of amending an act of parliament that only could have been made pursuant to a specific provision of a constitution without first attempting or without first successfully amending the relevant provision of that constitution. And what are we saying here, Mr. President? We're saying that the provisions of Section 162(3) of the 1999 Constitution as amended is so clear and unambiguous. And to this extent, Mr. President, unless and until the clear provisions of subsection 3 of Section 162 of the Constitution would have been amended to include the subject matter in the subject matters identified by that provisions of the Constitution, we cannot talk of amending the Sovereign Wealth Establishment Act, which is an act of the National Assembly. Section 1, subsection 3 of our Constitution is very clear as to situations of inconsistency and what becomes of laws, including acts of parliament, either being established or being amended, that are deemed to be inconsistent with clear provisions of our Constitution. And from the contents of this bill, there's already a pending bill to amend Section 162, subsection 3. What we should rather do as a parliament is to encourage our colleague, who also is the sponsor of the proposed amendment to Section 162(3), to first go and complete that process. So that, the Constitutional Review Committee is sitting, and I'm sure this will be one of the bills that can be given priority. That will have to be dealt with first before we can even proceed as a parliament. If we refer this to the relevant committee to continue after a second reading is taken today, the implication of that is that, knowing fully well that the provisions of the principal act, the provision of the principal act, which is our Constitution, is yet to be amended to accommodate this. Inviting the public to hearing or trying to proceed with this will amount to an exercise in futility. And Mr. President, that is the narrow interpretation I'm inviting our colleagues to give to this. It is important that we take legislative notice of the fact that any act or law that is inconsistent with the principal provision of our Constitution shall, to the extent of such inconsistency, be null and void, and we cannot be found to be operating within that regime. I thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Sandu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. I would like to share a slightly different perspective from colleagues. I'd therefore like to thank Senator Albert Akpan for proposing this bill. Mr. President, I'd like to commend him for the patriotism that I see has fired him to come up with the idea of this bill. Because if he did not believe in the future of Nigeria, if he did not believe in the solidity of this country, if he did not believe in the beauty of what this country represents, he would not begin to speak to the issue of a sovereign wealth fund. Mr. President, I have seen elite, I have seen leaders, I have heard them at the highest levels in this country speak to Nigeria as an artificiality. They give the impression that we should not be. They give the impression that they know what they are talking about. They don't. There is no country in the world that is a product of common parentage. All countries in the world are a function and a product of evolution. Different persons come together either through war or mutual agreement to forge a nation. That is what happens across the world, and some of the best countries like America are a fusion of all these nationalities and groups. And that is what Nigeria represents. So I commend him for that show of patriotism, which we need particularly now, when, as you will agree with me, despondency is in the air in Nigeria. This is a beautiful country, and we must think about today and think about tomorrow for our people.
Mr. President, the only concern that I would like to share relating to this bill is that there is no periodization content involved. What I mean is that we should be able to say, look, this sovereign wealth fund should not be violated within 25 years, within 30 years, or within 50 years. Because those who may be coming after us may not share in this belief that we have. It would therefore make nonsense of our efforts if we come together and create a sovereign wealth fund, and then in the next 4 years or in the next 8 years, some fellows come and violate all that we have talked about. I therefore want to commend Senator Albert once again and join other colleagues in saying that this bill deserves to be committed to second reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much, very distinguished Senator Professor Sandiono. That should be a beautiful 1st October message to Nigerians. Senator Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Mohammed Adamalero, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, let me start by saying that this is a very good bill, a very good proposal. We should save. If we don't save, we are not taking care of the future. But, Mr. President, some of us have not forgotten what happened when the very idea of the Sovereign Wealth Fund came into being during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo. Some governors went to court and challenged the constitutionality of setting up the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And it took a lot of persuasion and also political engineering before all the governors agreed to withdraw their case from the court. There was a political settlement. That is why the Sovereign Wealth Fund exists today. And since then, only $1 billion was taken from the Federation account into the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Later on, the federal government, on its own, took its own share of the Federation account of $500 million and put it in the Sovereign Wealth Fund, making a total of $1,500 million. Since then, Mr. President, I'm not aware of any inflow into the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So, in as much as we want to save, we should be very careful. We should be very careful not to do it in contravention of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I agree with all the submissions made by my colleagues that it is good to save, but we should do it in such a way that it will not run contrary to the provision of the Constitution. And we know that any law we make that contradicts the Constitution, that law is not void. And we should be blunt with each other, we should be frank with each other. No, if the law is against the Constitution, let us say so. But I believe that we should say, but at the same time, we should be very careful not to contradict the Constitution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Brown. Raise your hand before.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Gogo. I rise to support this bill because of its importance. But there is an area of concern where he said 20% minus 13% of the consolidated revenue fund, which is actually the money for the derivation. Now, what this one is saying, yes, gather the money for us, but don't touch our own money. So I think we have to look at this, because the 40% is untouched. While it remains untouched, then the remaining balance of the money is going to be kept for the whole Nigeria, of which those benefiting from the 13% are also part of it. So I think there is need we look at this issue also. So that when it goes to the committee should look at that and see it. But certainly there is need for constitutional provision and also that issue of 13%. Once we do that, I think we're home and dry. Thank you very much.
Did you raise your hand? Oh, okay. Senator Francis.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name still remains Senator Francis Adenigba Fadansi from Osun State. I support Senator Bassi for his brilliant move. It's a good idea, but there was a time here the elders mooted this idea of sovereign wealth, and we had a lot of savings during the old man's time. It is from this other governors that went to court and they used section 162.3 to defeat this idea in Supreme Court, and all the money was shared. The idea is okay, but is there any guarantee that when we start savings again, another group of governors will come tomorrow and use the same section 162.3 to go to Supreme Court and share all the labor? This bill must guarantee that that there will be no sharing at any time until there is emergency. Thank you very much.
Senator Joshua Bassi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joshua Bassi, Cross River South. Mr. President, I just want to just emphasize two important issues. First of all, I wholeheartedly agree with the mover of this bill, and I congratulate him for bringing this to the floor of the Senate. Mr. President, I think one thing that keeps happening to us in this country is that we create institutions, specific purpose-built institutions that are properly and professionally manned, and then we set them aside and we do not use them to fulfill the purposes for which they were set up. The Sovereign Wealth Authority, or the Sovereign Wealth Fund, is one of the most professional institutions created by the federal government in this country. If you go there, you find that it is extremely professional. The recruitments are fantastic. It is properly manned, and the people are competent and capable. And yet, you have a situation where we are not using this expertise to grow the wealth of this country. Senator Alero talked about the monies that have been put in the Sovereign Wealth Fund. If you look at their performance to date, you will find that they have exceeded probably most banks in this country in terms of their capacity to invest and to grow wealth. And so I think it's a very apt amendment that has been brought now, encouraging the federal government and encouraging us as Nigerians to not only save, but to invest funds that we generate in this country and give it to professionals, Nigerian professionals, to grow this wealth for us. People have talked about the issues of Norway, even Kuwait. Kuwait is another example of an oil-producing country that today earns probably as much from its investments as it does from oil production. So I just want to encourage us to say that this is politically and economically probably the right thing to do. Secondly, sir, I think that the controversy about the excess crude account is addressed by this amendment. The excess crude account has been the object of litigation and controversy for some time now. And with the amendment of this, with this amendment, I think that we put to rest the whole issue of the excess crude account and utilize those funds in the way in which I think that is responsible and will grow our economy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Smatadeni. Okay, we can, Senator Branga.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I'm Kabiru Gaya, representative of Kano South from Kano State. Mr. President, my major concern about this bill is the third paragraph of the defense, where it says that the 20% equivalent to the revenue generated should be deducted less than 13% revision. Mr. President, we are speaking on behalf of all the Nigerians. There is no point you cut 20% from other sources and leave the 13% revision uncut. My suggestion is that we should cut across board the 20%, including the 13% revision. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, distinguished colleagues. Okay, everything on? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Olori again, St. Kwara Center. Mr. President, while commending the proposal, the distinguished Senator Abba for bringing up this bill, I have two or three concerns that I want us to note as we process the bill. One is the savings of 20% from revenue account. I think in the committee consideration, 1/5 of the resources of a person to be saved or for a country may look a little bit high. We need to save, but we need to consider appropriate percentage, particularly if we look at viability of the states in Nigeria. The second one is to re-emphasize and support my colleagues that it should be from the totality of the revenue, not excluding any particular percentage, because otherwise we reduce what we are saving. The last one, Mr. President, is the fact that we need to be able to put appropriate clause and processes for spending from that particular money. I think that would be important because in this country, we often have money, but you see it being misused or being misappropriated by subsequent government. I think in terms of the bill should be able to make provision for a process that will involve the legislator in terms of how and conditions for its release. With that, I support the bill, and I hope we'll be able to put this in consideration in our committee consideration. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Abbasi, you wanted to respond.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, let me express my profound gratitude to the contributions of all my distinguished colleagues to the sentiments as expressed in this chamber. Mr. President, like I have stated in this lead debate, this particular bill, is a concluding part of the several amendments that we have proposed earlier, like the section 162 in the Constitution, which states clearly, can I please read, Mr. President? 1623 states clearly, said any amount which has taken cognizance of section 80, any amount standing to the credit of the Federation account shall be distributed amongst the federal and state governments and the local governments, councils in each state, at such terms and in such a manner that may be prescribed by the National Assembly. What we are amending in this section is to say before that distribution, we should have a savings of a proposed 20%. Mr. President, the only form of savings we have in this country today is the excess crude account. And we all know the contentions as regards the excess crude account. As we speak with the President, that account has almost a zero balance. It is the reasoning for the creation of sovereign wealth funds in this country that has led to that fund. Currently, the balance, that fund has about 1.750 billion. The initial deposit was $1 billion, additional $500 million, and then Mr. President, President Muhammad Buhari, added $250 million. That fund has made over $320 million to this country to date. Mr. President, when we have proposed the amendment of the Sovereign Wealth Funds Act in conformity with this, we had actually stated clearly the strength of sovereign wealth funds across Africa and the world. Take, for example, Angola. Angola is not as big as this country, but Angola has a sovereign wealth fund of over $7 billion. $7 billion. Even Alaska, a state in America, has over $100-something billion, something that started only with $40 million in 1977. Mr. President, and the context of the sovereign wealth fund, whatever will go to sovereign wealth fund on the basis of this amendment, every single state, federal and local government, they have their notional distribution. They know what belongs to each state. And we have amended the Sovereign Wealth Fund Act to ensure that we strengthen that act in terms of withdrawal. It's very, very clear. And also to strengthen the act to empower Sovereign Wealth Fund that the money that is being saved on behalf of the Federation must be invested in what we call near money. Money that the country can call up at any point in time within 7 days. And Mr. President, when we fell into the pandemic, this last pandemic of COVID-19, it is Sovereign Wealth Fund that saved this country. Sovereign Wealth Fund saved $150 million. That is the essence of investing and saving for the rainy days. This country, as we speak, has no saving whatsoever. So I quite appreciate the interest and the contentions and the sentiment as expressed. But let me assure this chamber, Mr. President, even the committee that you refer this bill to will know that we have covered all necessary constitutional that will bring about any conflict in the context of the Constitution. So I thank you, Mr. President, and I still appeal that this bill be read the second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much, distinguished colleagues, for the various contributions. And I think some real issues have been raised. The issue of whether we should have the 20% deducted from the gross of our consolidated revenue fund before any first line charge starts to take effect. Because it's not only the 13%. There are other statutory deductions that you bear and so many others that we need to do. So I think we need to address that because if you take out the 13%, then you have to also exclude all the other first line charges that you are supposed to make. The second aspect is whether our situation today will warrant 20% of our revenues to go into sovereign investment fund, because we have serious shortages of revenue. So that's why we borrow. And if you take 20% upfront, you'll be left with maybe a big gap that you still have to go and borrow. Yeah. So maybe when we go for the public hearing, we need to look into that percentage, whether at this time, like the minority leader said, maybe in the early 70s when our problem was not money but how to spend it in courts, or in the 2010, 2011, 2012, when we were getting over $140 per barrel, and we didn't save much, or we didn't save anything actually. Now the crude price has gone so low, oil is becoming insignificant, and this 20% is supposed to be largely from our sale of crude, not the other independent revenues that we get. So we need to look at this percentage so that we don't, at the end of the day, cause much problem within the country waiting for our investments to yield the desired outcomes. But this is a very important bill on the whole. And also we should take note of what Senator Opemi raised. I think it's important. We still, I think, should go ahead and take the second reading, give it the second reading, and then probably the subsequent process. But we need to be very careful with all the observations and the concerns raised by our colleagues For this, I will put the question. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Allocation of Revenue Federation Accounts, etc. Act Cap A15, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2014, 2004, and for other related matters 2020, SB 416, second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Allocation of Revenue Federation Account, etc. Act Cap A15, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, and for other related matters 2020, second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Senate Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, in view of the mood of the Senate having been decimated by a large number of senators who have other legislative activities and duties to contend with, and also having come this far in the spirit of COVID, I move that we suspend activities on all the remaining items on the order paper for another legislative bill. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wholeheartedly support this motion.
Wholeheartedly. Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that we stand down the consideration of the remaining items on the order paper till another legislative day, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, having come this far, I would like to rise with due respect to move a motion for this distinguished Senate to adjourn to Tuesday, 6 October 2020 at